Thanks so much for that introduction and to kick off this little series. It is early in the morning and it's just a short time. I have spent, as you said, a lot of time helping people tell their story, businesses tell their story. But the last 10 years or so, it's really been focused on small and medium businesses. And I find that for the most part, it is not a priority because anyone who is part of an organization that's not a Fortune 500 or 100, I don't know that we have any of those online today, they didn't go into business to do social media. They went into business to be an insurance expert or a realtor or a restaurateur or whatever the cause. So when it comes to prioritizing social media, it isn't necessarily something that comes, it really is daunting. And for the most part, it is largely ignored, it's not prioritized. But the bottom line is right now, more than ever, well, of course, social media has been around for a good long while and businesses have been tapping into it, some more than others. Right now, in this global pandemic, it bears discussing that has further emphasized the need to be on social. Why? Because everyone, including everyone in your households, if you're working from home, is online. There were a lot of people who were begrudgingly not wanting to go online, some people who didn't have an inclination to want to be online. But now, truthfully, anyone is online, save for small, tiny children. And that means that they are on their computers, they're on their phones, and they are looking because they're not interacting out in the public. They're not at social events, business events. They're not interacting at business meetings where they're interacting with other executives and whatnot. They have to do everything online. So the mentality of all of us is, let me Google it. So I want to show you, I'm just going to share my screen because there's nothing like a good stat. Just to start the morning, most of you probably recognize that the business world is online, but there are a lot of naysayers. So just to sort of absorb and start the day, you know, you can see here, most millennials, most Gen Xers, and I think this number is low, of the boomers are active on social media. And when it comes to small businesses, medium-sized businesses, more than 80 million businesses they have business Facebook pages. And Facebook isn't the have-all, end-all, but there's so many different options. But in terms of being where you need to be, it's critical now, especially with again, not to be a doomsayer, but we've all lived the last 6 months. And as we move towards the winter season and the ability to get out and about is less than there, not only are people online, but more importantly, a much more relevant point to how to steer your social media is to recognize that we are all collectively in the same mental frame of mind, a very different place than we've all been ever. We've never been collectively in the same frame of mind preceding the pandemic, but now we all bear the same burden. And what you'll find, I know what I have found, is that it's businesses who step up, businesses who go beyond, regardless of what, as I see each one of your faces, regardless of what it is that you do, whether it's a product or a service or a foundation or a nonprofit, whatever it is, people are going the extra mile in traditional places and in non-traditional places. And that's what's causing, I know for me, as I thought about this conversation this morning, I thought, what has mattered to me? Because at the end of the day, if you have to leave this meeting early or at midpoint, know that social media is not bigger than you. You can control it. Social media is critical to any business going forward and being found. And social media is where you can build your reputation, by all means using funding and budget at one point, but there's no sense in using any budget until you get your ducks in a row, you find your channels, you've decided what content. So again, I want to show you when I was thinking about the pandemic and what I mean about any one of the organizations having the ability to build their reputation, which is what draws and attracts people to want to work with you. What's been happening in recent, I'm just going to share my screen, so let me get to that. Just 2 or 3 examples I have here. Okay, so hopefully you can see that, whether the type is too small. These are all Connecticut-based companies. In fact, one of them is right here in the Bridgeport area. And at one point, they are not the only business to have chosen to do this, but Naples Pizza in Farmington ended up getting tremendous coverage in the media, but also posted for weeks and weeks and weeks the different locations that they brought pizzas to serve the essential workers. And we all heard these stories in the news. And Medtronic, which obviously is a medical devices company, also based here in Connecticut, really stepped up. I remember it really touched my heart when I realized it was recalibrating in order to create the critically essentially needed ventilators back in May. And that was something I'd never seen a company sort of pivot and do. And so I remembered that. And there's something to be said for that. And then finally, Santa Energy just last week, which I think should be national news, created a very cool pod experience in their own offices for their employees who are essential workers to bring their kids, so that they hired a teacher to oversee pod learning, remote learning. So again, I don't want to spend too much time, but hopefully that is one of the key messages that you take away today is, regardless of your business and when you get to social, it is imperative during this particular time versus any other to see what you can do to be that good community neighbor. And that's always been important, but now more than ever, it's really resonating with what's having people gravitate to do business with them. One of the things, and we are never going to have enough time this morning to go through everything about social media, but really one of the goals of this morning for me, and hopefully why you signed on, is to remove the mystery from social. There's lots to be discussed about it, but for the most part, you do build your reputation by sharing a little bit of yourself. Just think of any personal experience you've had that you can be proud of, that you've built with a client or a partnership that you have with another company. And so I have a little list for you that I want to go through. And if we don't get through it all, but I can certainly share this list with you. I can email it to you, or Kate can provide it to you, of the top 12 must-know tips to manage your social media better starting today. So let me get to that. Okay, so starting from the top, can you all see that? I'm going to nod of the head from Kate, I'll know, right? Okay, so understand that less is more. When individuals that run businesses and shy away from social media or are charged with social media somewhat begrudgingly, they think they're overwhelmed that they have to do everything. My recommendation is always know that less is more. Fewer channels. Do a deep dive within your organization, whether it's a 3-people company or 22 or 100-people company, and figure out what is the channel where your constituents, your clients, your customers, the partners, the people that you want to attract, your target market, where are they? Now, they're probably in more than one spot, but pick one. And if you are ambitious, pick 2. But for the most part, pick one, and then start to get really good at it. So decide on what that channel is and begin to focus on building content there. And understand that channels are a two-way communication between you and the audience. So you need to tell your story. And number two important thing about this morning is what I want to say to you is the way you make your social media better sooner today is to start to look inside your organization and figure out what your story is. I just mentioned the Naples Pizza. I mentioned Medtronic. Now, obviously Medtronic, a large organization, does many things, but obviously it has a heart. So whatever, and Santa Fuel, very much mindful of the satisfaction and caring of their employees. So who are you as an organization? What do you stand for? Not only what products and service you offer, but what do you stand for as someone who people would want to do business for? Because it's those stories that you tell that will make people remember you, just as I indicated that I had a soft spot after reading about these three stories. I will not forget those companies that I showed you the images of. And then important to listen. A lot of people who don't know how to do social, they just put it out there. Let me just put it out there. And a lot of times it's sales information. And you need to think to yourself, let me sit in the seat of the person that I want to do business with, the needs of my company, whether I am a foundation and I'm trying to get people to donate, or whether I am a foundation and I want to have people use my services, and think of the kind of information that would be really helpful to them, and listen to them when they talk to you through social. Then decide on a cadence. I'm just going to be really quick about this. In terms of how often, that's a big question people have. And again, I'm breezing through all of these topics that could go on for several hours each for every individual business. But don't overwhelm yourself. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. If one post a week is what you think you can manage, so long as that content is something that individuals would find valuable, find useful, whether it's tips or whether it's a video explaining how to do something, or something that's a compelling image that shows them what they can make happen if they use your product, just do one post. And as you grow over time, you shouldn't pressure yourself. And this is really very much 101. The bottom line is to get off the mark, and don't allow fears and being daunted by the volume or the mystery of the tools to get in your way. Images are critical. Posts that simply have word copy are not really going to work unless they're a profound quote that really are meaningful to the audience you're reaching, relevant to a holiday or to whatever purpose your organization has. So in general, just know, avoid a lot of copy and focus on an image. And those images don't have to be professional shots. And they also should not always be purchased from online. Use your iPhone and take shots that by all means are clear. And again, not going to spend too much time, but know that images, whether they're graphics that are by someone internally or hired, or photographs, you know from your own experience on social that that is what attracts your eye and makes you want to share. So another third key point I thought about as I was preparing for this morning was be patient. And when I say that, I mean, I thought of a great example in my own life. I'm not normally a gardener, but given the pandemic, have opted to spend more time on the exterior of our home. So in May, I spent a lot of money on flowers for around my front porch. And I thought I followed all the rules, and it took a long time for a plethora of flowers to show up. In fact, that was May, and I would have to say, maybe some of you got the same situation. I now have a robust garden in the front of my home as of the last 2 weeks. And right now, I'm starting to think about the holidays and pumpkins and getting rid of those flowers. So the point being, I had no idea that those flowers needed that amount of time to actually grow to their optimum place. And if you think about it, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's not one post that sets the world on fire. It's not 5. It's a steady cadence, even if it's once or twice a week, on the same channel of relevant information with a compelling image or 2 here and there that means something to your customer. Not what you want to make happen, what they need and want from you. How can you help them? And when you do have an effective post and they do comment, engage with those comments. When it's a positive, thank them. Never delete a comment unless it's, for the most part, rule of thumb, unless there's foul language or name calling. It will resolve itself. Again, another hour conversation, if not longer, on that. But know this, content is everything. It's everything. Do not put up a press release. No one is going to share a press release. No one is going to comment on a press release. Put up a video, and that's where I just want to take, just watching the time, we're good. When it comes to content, I took a look at all of the attendees scheduled to be here today. And a lot of you have great content. We have a keynote speaker in the house. We have a construction organization in the house that does, I've been to a lot of your sites overnight and seen the kind of content that you have, not to name several others. The Fairfield County Foundation has all kinds of content, and many of you do. A few of you don't. Some of you don't have a LinkedIn page for your organization or for yourself. But for the most part, you need to know you shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of content. Now I'm going to show you another, I'm going to share my screen. I think this will help before I continue to make this point. So let me go to another slide, 1 second. Here we go. So I just grabbed a few, and 3 out of 4 of these are people here in the BRBC community, where they're pretty much rocking their social. It's doing well. And so take a look around at what we have here. WAG Central is the doggy daycare in Stratford. And they're very creative what they do. And I know puppies and kids, you know, that's what everyone says draws attention. But they didn't have power during the power outage of the most recent hurricane that threw us all into a funk without power for days. And they did a post, you can see here, that had 106 likes. You go into what's happening in your organization, and people love behind the scenes. Now, they might have gone dark for a few days because it wasn't their normal course of business, but they chose not to. Bigelow Tea does a great job. For the way they use their visuals, they have a consistent look, which is important, of the photos that they use, but they engage the audience with this question. Where is your favorite place to sip your morning tea? Which some of you may be sipping it here on a BRBC info session. But again, tremendous, the 43 comments on a single, that would make any small business or medium-sized business pleased with themselves. I want to point you to the one on the right that I just stumbled upon yesterday. Now, granted, she's not in the BRBC community, but she was in my LinkedIn thread. And she's an HR expert, and she has a strong following on LinkedIn. But what she did is she just made a simple post. Think about how when you say, well, I don't know what content I would use. Look what this young lady did. She just said, I'm pitching 2 new clients today. And in that, let's not forget the new normal that we're living in, what I started at the top of the conversation, talking about you have to think reality check of where we are all collectively. And that is, you know, working remotely and trying to figure out how to do business effectively. So she put a little picture, as you can see, of her socks and just was not afraid to be human, not afraid to show the less than polished blazered professional that she probably conveys when we were pre-pandemic, and look at the engagement that she got. And I think a lot of companies, even if they are financial company or insurance company, a lot of people are afraid to show their person, their humanity. Granted, a whole company is not one person, but you really need to have a conversation internally of what's okay, because there's a lot that's okay. So I go back to our list and I want to talk about what tools are out there that are, this would be here in the content, that are free to use, because a lot of the barrier to moving forward is we don't have any money. Now, we could talk for hours about how and why there should be a budget for social at one point, but there should be no big budget for social until you've established yourself with a channel and know what content you're going to use. So I don't know if you've participated in these things or actually conducted them yourself, but I know for me, I have viewed many Facebook Lives. I have viewed many Instagram Lives. I have myself posted many Instagram stories. And of course, the opportunity for video that can be posted using your own iPhone. Now, everything I just mentioned is absolutely available to anyone on those channels for no cost. Is anyone following you when you do that? No, but not if you're starting out. But if you do a Facebook Live, it can be recorded and it can be posted. And if you really like it, it can be posted to your website. And you can create content by engaging all those people who are home remote, those customers who want to talk about whatever the community involvement program that you're doing, or how to decide on their finances in the world of pandemic, or whatever the topic area of your organization. So I can't emphasize enough that social media shouldn't even be discussed unless you take a deep dive into what content you have, what content you can create, and what you should do. Well, we'll get to that. That's one of our tips at the end, but be brave. I have worked with so many organizations that are timid about doing a video. Oh, it doesn't look professional. I don't have the money for a videographer. You don't need that. You need, think about what you view yourself in social media in the course of your own personal life, and realize that most social media comes and goes in a day. So if something was bad, ineffective, learn from it. And you can't be great until you begin at medium or bad and you get good, and then you'll get great. And it requires to test and test and test. So this didn't work. It was too long. It was too blurry. It was too mundane or droning on. Shorten it up and look to your competitors to see what they're doing so that you can compete equally. And once you have anything that's getting any level of engagement, allow yourself to start monitoring and measuring the results, because then you can take it to the boss and say, we posted this and we got this many results, and there was a link in that post that drove people to our website. So we drove 111 people to our website this morning as a result of this compelling post we did. So I think we're almost done here. I have one other, we shared that. So here's the reality check. Social media, again, this is a very long conversation that could go on for hours. I'd love to continue the conversation with anyone who wants to go a little further into it, but it's only one aspect of how a company needs to communicate. Whether it's newsletters and emails and marketing promotions, campaigns, postcards, you need to always communicate with your customers. You need to find ways to hear back from your customers and the target audience that you want to reach. If you're going to develop a connection with anyone, and I think we all know we're going to get to that. We're going to do a little breakout about that. In order to build your reputation, you have to be authentic. We all hear that. You have to be authentic. You have to share a little bit. It can't be all buttoned up and suited up. and this has never been a better time than this pandemic, to allow people that little extra freedom to say, all right, times have changed a little bit. We're going to be a little braver. You need to be where people are looking for what you're offering, and your competitors are there. And if you're not there, because people are just Googling what they need, if you're not there, and of course your website is obviously important as well, you're missing out on business and growth. But I think it starts with having a conversation with your team. Obviously, someone internally will need to take charge of it, but the conversation starts with the key points that I mentioned here is, what's your story? And where is your target audience? And what do you want to create internally for content that matters to the people you're trying to reach? Bottom line, just start. And with that, Kate, where do we go next?
Thank you so much, Barbara. These are some great tips, and obviously you have to start somewhere, so we appreciate you trying to distill a whole lot of information down into 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. And again, if you want to connect with Barbara, here's her contact information. And I think we're going to turn to the second part of this is we're going to break into small groups and continue the conversation. I know Barbara has a question to pose to us, and then I think we'll break into probably 4 or 5 groups, and then we'll have 10 minutes in those groups. We'll come back to the larger group, maybe share some insights together. We'll break into another smaller group, come back, and then we'll be done. So again, I appreciate you all being here. Barbara, you can ask the questions.
Sure. I know I threw a lot of information at all of you, such as the attempt at trying to really be helpful. I hope it didn't overwhelm. It's a lot of details, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone to sort of talk in more detail about what's going on. But we thought it'd be great to, hopefully we'll have 2 breakouts today. The first question I want to pose to everyone, it's been very effective in the past, and that is what is, with regard to your organization, your business, what is your why? Why did you create that business? Why are you passionate about that business? What is it that drives you in the morning to make it a success? So first breakout question is, however your interpretation of what is your why? And then we'll come back, we're going to see a couple of people's motivation for wanting to make a difference with their organization.